This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla in the Narrowgate Security Agency studios.
We want to rewrite the founding document of our great nation to accomplish his goals. What does that say about his ideas on future Supreme Court justices?
America has a heavy heart, a great patriot, a tremendous American, a titan of justice is gone. The great Antonin Scalia has died. Today, we're joined by our friend Colonel Rob Maness to look back at the incredible career of Scalia and also touch on Maness's exciting run for U.S. Senate in Louisiana. Sarah Palin remembers Justice Scalia. A Palin birthday wish to Abraham Lincoln. Palin points out more lies from the Cruz campaign. A brand new installment of Liberty and Legacy with Tamara Colbert is on the way from Texas. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman in Missouri. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by Narrowgate Security Agency. Learn more at narrowgate.com. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia has died at the age of 79. Scalia passed away in his sleep during a visit to Texas this past weekend. A sad time as a great man is gone, but his impact will certainly live on. Today, our friend Colonel Rob Maness is here to look back at Scalia and look ahead at the Maness for Senate campaign in Louisiana. And right now we welcome back to the Palin Update, Colonel Rob Maness from the great state of Louisiana. Colonel, thank you so much for being with us again. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me back on.
Well, we are so excited about you getting into the U.S. Senate race in Louisiana, and we do want to tackle that in a moment, and that's the good news. But we do have to talk a little bit today on the program, of course, about Justice Antonin Scalia passing away this weekend, the age of 79, just a unbelievable American, a great patriot, and I guess most importantly for all of us, someone who really had that firm belief in constitutional government and that passionate dedication to justice. And as a matter of fact, that's how Governor Palin put it this weekend, saying those very words. And all of us here at Mama Grizzly Radio, prayers to the Scalia family and everyone. And before we get into what it means for all of us, what did you think of the man in general, and what stands out to you about the life of Justice Scalia?
Well, thanks, Kevin. First of all, our family's praying for Justice Scalia's family and for his immortal soul, obviously, and for our nation tonight as we mourn the passing of this just an absolute legal giant in his professional field and as a patriot, a man who stands alone, really, as a shining light of liberty, a steadfast interpreter of the Constitution as it's written, and stood with all of us out here in what some people call flyover country. I call it America. With us regular American citizens on the ground out here, and push back against these liberal, politically correct ideas that are out there that really betray our country and our values.
He sure did. And, I mean, you look at Scalia and, Clarence Thomas, and sometimes, between the far left judges and then those who have caved and have given us curious decisions over the past few years, you wondered how those two, could stay so strong, and they never did back down. And I guess that's because they were guided by what they were supposed to be guided by, right? Not being activists, but, go ahead and looking at what the law really is and how it should be in the country. It's already there, and they were able to make crisp and clean and clear decisions. We don't always see that.
That's right. Thank goodness for Justice Thomas that he remains on the court, and I'm proud to count his wife Jenny as one of my friends, and they are staunch, not only conservatives but supporters of what is doing the right thing in our America, especially if you're in office, whether it's appointed or elected. And I'm so glad that he's still with us. And you know what? I have a bright, an image of a bright future for the court. I believe that while this timing of Justice Scalia's death is unfortunate, that this is going to get the folks that really understand and care about our Constitution in the conservative movement to coalesce together and come together and put a united front against further liberalism and encroachment on the court.
I do want to get into that further in a moment. I first want to ask you, though, are there any things in particular that stood out to you? I mean, as you said, a giant. I mean, he's been called a titan, and I mean, sometimes we exaggerate with words. I don't think that's the case here, and he had such a major presence on the high court. And sometimes it was when he offered the dissent, I thought he really came across even better because you saw that clarity and that hope. And people would sit here when your decision doesn't go the way it should, and you say, well, wait a minute, he gets it. Why don't we have more guys like Scalia? That's what I thought. But was there a decision or a court case, because he was in there longer than, Reagan appointed him. So is there anything that stood out to you in particular over the years?
Aside from the fact that he is so consistent with the Constitution and consistent in being able to separate ideologically based on maybe a religious faith or ideological ideas based on a non-faith or science and those kind of things. He was able to separate those issues from interpreting what the Constitution was about and what it meant for it to be the law of the land. And that's his consistency. I think that's the number one thing that stands out over the years for me, for Justice Scalia. But in the last year or two, his two dissenting opinions, the one on Obamacare and the one on the DOMA issue, I think stand out to me as the somewhat humorous, as a matter of fact, very direct, very plain spoken, that rights are being created out of thin air by an activist set of judges on the court that are not elected, and that it's not the place of 9 unelected lawyers to do those kinds of things when it comes to interpreting the Constitution of the United States and the law of the land that applies to everybody.
Well, as you know, on this program, and you're one of the guys we love, it's one of the reasons is straight talk from Governor Palin, and we see that in national races right now that those types of tactics are working, and because it's speaking from the heart, it's not reading off a teleprompter of what we've been so used to over the last few years. And, what stood out to me with Scalia, one of the phrases I've heard him say multiple times, was, I'm an Italian from Queens, and then he'd go into this, opinion, and he'd tell it to you the way that an Italian from Queens would say it at the kitchen table. Not a guy who, you see these justices, you see these politicians, and people say, oh, well, and I think a lot of them want you to think this. They say, oh, well, they're higher than me. They know more than me. No, instead he said, I'm an American just like you, and this is my background, and I'm going to tell you how it is. And he was right. And I mean, it was just talk about a role model, talk about, I've talked to judges on lower courts who just really looked up to him, and Thomas as well. And just it's a sad time, but I'm glad to hear from you that you feel that it could be a bright future anyway. And I know people are worried because obviously lifetime appointments, and now with one of the justices gone, there will be an opening, and people are worried, especially with a GOP Senate that is, as you know, and you're running for the Senate, has backed down really on so many times against President Obama. Do you think, Colonel, that the Senate will come out and say we are not going to confirm any nominee until next year? And do you think if they do that, that would be the right move? Because people want it on the conservative side, but they're worried it won't happen.
Well, I think just as we saw moments ago, the President of the United States came out and spoke about Justice Scalia's unfortunate death. And he also stated that under his constitutional responsibilities, he intends to fulfill those, which is to nominate a replacement. And he also tried to say, and for the life of me, I don't understand why he doesn't really get the Constitution and what's written in it, but tried to say that the Senate should also do their job and give a fair hearing and a vote in a timely manner. And the Constitution says nothing about any of those things. It says that the Senate has the power to advise and consent on the nominees of the Supreme Court with no timing constraints and no vote and not even a hint of whether some things are fair or not. So let's get that straight. Both bodies should fulfill their constitutional duties and responsibilities if that's what they're going to do. And for the Senate, if I were in the Senate, I would be fighting to ensure that a strict constructionist constitutionalist is the only acceptable replacement for Justice Scalia or any other justice position that I had the opportunity to preside over in the United States Senate, because it's the failure of senators to insist on those as the qualifications that have led us to the point where people are now worried. And as long as the United States Senate stands its ground, partisan or not, the United States Senate as a separate body and the third branch of equal branch of government should stand its ground and fulfill its responsibilities. That's what people could expect from me, and that's what I expect from every single United States senator in the body today.
Well, we certainly wish you were in the Senate, and we know that now you are running for Senate in Louisiana, and a little different than last time we had you, I think. I mean, you're still an outsider, and that's a great thing, but I think the name recognition is out there more. I think people have seen what kind of guy you are more. I think that your character has been on display more. And not that this wins elections, but you've picked up a lot of endorsements lately. And I do think that can only help because you're getting more and more exposure. And anyone who sits down and actually looks at your background, I can't imagine them not going that way. So tell us about some of the great endorsements you got and how that may help you in the race.
Well, thanks. We just announced formally on January 27th, 2 weeks ago, and within a week we had gotten the endorsement of the Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser, in the state. He just happens to be the highest-ranking elected official in the state of Louisiana, so we're very proud to get that. And that adds to our already broad base that cut across Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, and Republicans from last time, where we got over 202,000 votes. And then Lieutenant Governor Nungesser's endorsement continues to broaden out that base, and we helped them. I'm very proud of our team that did unify the party to coalesce behind the Republican nominee in the Mary Landrieu election, and he was able to win by a landslide. And that's the only time the Republican Party's really been unified in the last 18 months to 2 years. So we're very proud of our team for being able to do that, and the role that we played by campaigning up and down the state for Senator Bill Cassidy and helping him get in that election and getting a good Republican in there. So we're very proud of that. We just picked up this past week, the largest Tea Party group in Louisiana, over 18,000 members. The Tea Party of Louisiana, LLC, endorsed us. They're one of only two Tea Party groups that actually endorse candidates. They stayed out of the race last time, of note. And are now coming in to support us, and again, that broadens our base beyond just those strong independent-minded 202,000 voters, and adds to the Lieutenant Governor's base, and then this Tea Party of Louisiana base of voters, and we're very proud of that. And there's going to be many more endorsements coming. We've got picked up Special Operations Speaks this week, and I'm very proud of that. I signed my signature on both letters demanding a select committee on Benghazi, and I'm proud that I worked with Jenny Thomas and her folks to get those letters out there and get that committee established, because that's Benghazi must be completely investigated, and we've got to get down to the ground truth on that, for not only for the families of the 4 Americans that died courageously in that fight, but for all American military and civilian personnel that serve our country overseas. We've got to know, and they've got to know what the facts were and what corrections we've made, because it looks like we apparently didn't go to the rescue of our folks on the ground. And that's not what I was trained as a military man. I was trained to go to the sound of the guns, and if Americans are in trouble, you go to help them, regardless of what the risk is. And that's what our brothers and sisters intend to find out and make sure that never happens again, if that failure, in fact, did occur.